Subscribe to our YouTube channel and press the bell icon to get the latest updates.
So hello to everyone catching this edition of the Print Soft Cover. Today we have a very special guest with a very special book about one of India's most beloved iconic brands. The book is about a very special bike. That's a hint right there. And I have the book right here, and we have the author of the book with us, Mr. Amrit Raj. Hi, sir. Thank you so much for joining
Hi,
us.
Regina. Hi, how are you? Thank you very much for a very warm address.
Great. How are you doing, by the way? How is the lockdown?
I'm doing perfectly fine, but getting a bit irritated because of the lockdown and the pandemic that's just been spreading across. But I'm hoping that we'll have the vaccine very soon, and then things will get back to normal.
Great. I was asked to unveil the book, but I see the book in the background. So our viewers have a hint of what the cover is now going to look like and what the book is about. So this is me also unveiling the book. And then I will tell you a little bit about what the book is, and then we'll hear Amrit speak about the book as well. So
Thank you.
This is the book. The name is Indian Icon, a cult called Royal Enfield, the brand that everybody loves and knows here in India as one of the most cult followed bikes, if I may say so. And by the way, I love the design. I like the vintage feel of it. It's very Royal Enfield, true to its brand essence, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So for the viewers, a little bit about the book. The author Amrit Raj has tried to capture the essence of the brand, why it became an Indian icon, how it became that, through the eyes of the people who love the bike and the brand, why they buy into this brand, why are they so loyal, why has this brand lived on for so long, what's the secret, what's the essence. And the author has tried to capture this, not just through the anecdotes of people who love the bike, but also through the business decisions and the business challenges that the company has had to face over the years. So to start off with, Amrit, tell us, see, India has had a number of successful brands that are like long-lived and loved, but why focus on Royal Enfield?
Oh, that's a very deep question. We've had many brands, great brands in India, right? You have the Tatas, you have the Birlas, Reliance, you have Mahindra, but they've mostly been into business to business segment, and their consumer segment has not been that powerful to have a global appeal. The closest that comes to my mind is perhaps Tata Tea, which is fairly well accepted in global markets. But apart from that, if you look around, our businesses have mostly been business to business brand, not business to consumer brand, and that is where I think Royal Enfield is coming up as a serious contender of becoming India's first consumer brand for the global markets, if I may say premium consumer brand for the global markets. The reason for that is that the brand has a certain level of acceptance in the nostalgia, in your nostalgia in the UK and in other markets, because it's one of the oldest motorcycling brand that has been in the continuous production over the last 100 years. It's just that it has got strength now in India on the basis of its performance in India, and now it is going back to where it originated from, which is in the UK, and as well as in cities like California in the US, where the standards are really, really high. It has gone back to markets like Thailand, in Southeast Asia. It is going to Latin America, in Brazil. So we haven't really seen an Indian brand spreading its wings like Royal Enfield. It is still early days to say that it has managed a victory in those markets, but I'm quite confident with the kind of leadership that the brand has and the history and appeal that the brand has, it will be able to establish itself as a very premium consumer brand first such brand from India.
See, and you were saying that it's going back to its roots of, being identified with the UK. And that brings me to my next question. Royal Enfield, the brand and that story, has that essence of the colonial times, that it comes from the old ages when the UK was, it was controlling a large part of the world, and colonialism was at its full force here in India as well. But right now, in the current times, here in India, the mood is more about make in India. It's about Atmanirbhar Bharat. It's about self-reliance. It's not about being a brand from outside. So how does Royal Enfield sit in with that mood when it comes to, you on the one hand you have Atmanirbhar Bharat, but you have Royal Enfield, that is a brand which has that essence of being from the UK. That's part of its story, that it comes from the colonial times. How does these two mesh?
Thank you. It's a great question. I think it's a case of an Indian victory over colonialism. I'll explain you how. So the bikes came into India. They used to get imported by this gentleman called F.B. Stewart, who was directed movies like Indian Dhobi and Delhi Darbar for Lord Curzon back in the early 1900s. And from there, I found in during the research of my book that there are traces of Royal Enfield all across the country, mostly Brits riding it around the country. There is a trace of first bike race happening between Calcutta to Gaya way back in the, I think, 1916 or 1917, something around that. So clearly the association is very, very old with the country, and it has that colonial romance. And after India got independence, the British company actually formed a joint venture with an Indian company here to supply those bikes to the Indian Army, and that's when the national fervor and the valor of Indian Army comes into the picture, and that gets associated with the brand. Unfortunately, the British company goes bust financially in late 1960s, 1970. But the Indian arm of the company that used to be owned by a family from Chennai, that chugged along quite handsomely for some time with the support from the Indian government, as well as the consumers who were socially very powerful. The customer profile belonged to the zamindars, landlords of India in the 60s and 70s who used to ride these bikes. But that company again went through a financial turmoil in the 80s, and that's when the Lal family of Delhi bought the company in 1990. It wasn't going to be smooth even after that purchase. For the first 10 years, Vikram Lal, who was the father of Siddharth Lal, tried to revive the brand, but he had too many things on his plate, and he could not, until Siddharth comes in the picture and revives it completely. And today, the brand appeals to millennials, it appeals to women, it appeals to college-going girls. So that's the transformation of the brand, right? From a British-originated motorcycle to an Indian product. I mean, a legacy that has been preserved by Indians, a legacy that has been taken forward by Indians. So the objective of this book is to actually stake claim on the brand as an Indian property, not to be seen as a British property. And I think that fits in very well with the Atmanirbhar Bharat campaign that Prime Minister Modi has been talking about, because the bike is made in India and it is made for the world. So I think it's a perfect fit for local manufacturing, for Prime Minister's call of Atmanirbhar Bharat. I hope I'm able to answer your question to your satisfaction.
And as you said before when we were discussing, that's why you call the book The Indian Icon.
That's right.
And also, Amrit, tell us a bit about your process in writing this book. Was it difficult to write it? How long did it take?
Oh yeah, it was quite, it took me, I could recall, it took me a good 2 years to write the book. I remember I started reporting and working on the book when I was still a journalist, and I finished it in September. So I started in 2018 and finished it in September this year, which means it took me around 2 years. See, the idea is the book is so vast. The subject is so vast because on one hand you're talking about the colonial past of India, the romance that comes with that, then the association with the army, then you have the stories coming out of bullets being ridden by the cops, milkmaids, then the millennials, and it suddenly becomes very modern, right? So to capture all of that, talking to as many people as I could, I've spoken to so many mechanics who have served the brand over the years, generations after generations. There is one mechanic I spoke to. He's from Kollam in Kerala, where Royal Enfields are very, very popular. And he has been fixing Royal Enfield bikes since the 60s. And now he is training his daughters to be Royal Enfield mechanics. So there is something about the brand that continues its legacy, right? So to capture all of this, all these stories have kind of taken me some time, but I'm happy that I've been able to finish it, and I'm hoping that the readers would love the work that I have put together.
And you were also telling me that one loyal cult follower of Royal Enfield had ordered like 10 copies of the book.
Oh yeah, no. So I was telling you that there's this garage in Bangalore is being run by a mechanic who fixes Royal Enfields again for the longest time, and it so happened that he has bought 10 copies of the book. So that was quite pleasing to me because the idea of writing this book is to take it to as many people across the society, across all spheres of life as I can. And it was very pleasing and warming for me to see that one of the first buyers of the book is actually a mechanic who has served the brand for so long.
Was it easy to get access to Royal Enfield executives or the leadership, perhaps like Siddharth Lal, to speak about the story, their brand, and get more inside information?
So yeah, I mean, Siddharth I had met a lot of times when I was a journalist, and I covered the company for the longest time, good, I think 12 years. For the book, I did meet him. I met a few other company officials as well. And they shared what they could. They shared some photographs. And then I myself knew a lot of people since I've covered the industry as well as the company for so long. So yeah, I mean, they've been very, very open. They've been very, very supportive. And frankly, this book would not have been completed because without their support. So I really want to thank them for all that they have done for this book.
And I see at the top of the book, it says soon to be a major web series as well.
Yeah.
So is that going to be very much like the book, the contents of the book? And is there anything you could say about it?
See, I can't really talk about it because I think there is kind of some kind of confidentiality agreement that I have signed. There will be an announcement soon about it. But what I can tell you is that, yes, whatever work that comes out in its visual adaptation will be inspired from the book.
And Amrit, when exactly will the book be launched?
Yeah, so we are planning to launch it on 30th of November. Yeah, and you'll start seeing some promotions days before that. And we go full out on sale from 30th of November. They'll be available on Flipkart, Amazon, and the nearest bookstore that you might have if you are still willing to visit a bookstore in these times.
Yeah. And see, now the Royal Enfield, this book has so many anecdotes from the fans of the bike. What is one of your favorite anecdotes? Something that really caught your attention and say, this captures the essence of how loved this brand is and the kind of spiritual space that it has inside a fan's heart?
That's a good question. See, whoever writes a Royal Enfield talks very fondly about it, okay? It's like a family member to anybody who owns an Enfield. But during the course of the research for my book, I came across two incidents from really high-profile people. One was Jay Leno, who's a great bike enthusiast. Yeah, and he kind of took the new Royal Enfield Interceptor to his garage and did a proper show on it in the US, and that was something because he's been used to riding Ducatis, Harley Davidsons, Triumphs of the world. For him to actually come and take a Royal Enfield for a spin was something that was really pleasing to me from the brand perspective. It was purely because of the pull that the brand has and the story that it has written in India. The other such example that comes to my mind is again from a trade fair in the UK where Prince William gets to see the bike, the Interceptor, and he expresses his desire to ride the Royal Enfield bike sometime in the Himalayas in India. So that is again, Prince William has been a bike enthusiast for the longest time, and he has all kinds of collection. But for him to actually express this desire of riding Royal Enfield in India was again an example of how much it appeals to people elsewhere. Right? It's a great story in India, but it is even more appealing to people elsewhere in the world.
That's quite impressive. And one of the other questions I had was, when I was going through the book, when I was reading the copy, I realized that this was not a perfect bike. It was not a perfect product. It had problems. There were technical difficulties. There were issues with the oil spills, oil leakage rather, and the engine had problems, and maintenance was difficult. It was not easy to buy this and maintain it, and it would give the customer a lot of trouble. And yet it has a cult following. How do you explain that? I think that's one of the mysteries of this brand.
Yeah, so one story that I told you about its association with India and how it came to be in India. That's of course for people who want to read about the brand and people who are really much into knowing the history of the brand. But purely from a consumer perspective, from a user perspective, I remember when I was a kid, every time a bullet would pass by my house, it has a thump, right? It's a duk 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 duk, and I would run out of my house to see the bike. And this story you would find so common with so many people across the country, and it's like a style statement. Like you're riding a bullet and you're passing by a group of people and everybody is looking at you that, okay, there is a bullet that is going. If you stop at a chai shop, people will come and ask you about the bike. It's like a conversation starter, right? So I think that has always been the case with Royal Enfield, despite how it fared in business, whether the brand was selling, whether it was not selling, whether it was making losses or the profits that it has made. What has been constant is the association of people with the characteristics of the bike. Most people that I spoke with, they said the moment you sit on the bike, it gives you a feeling of getting things done. It gives you a feeling of being strong on the road, gives you that confidence. So those are some inherent characters of the brand and the bike that comes up that makes it so phenomenal and has given it a cult status.
And one of the other questions that just pops in my head is it just luck that this brand has lived on and it captures so much mind space of the Indian consumer or even abroad? Or is the marketing really good? Do they tell a really good story through their marketing?
See, the story has always been there with Royal Enfield, right? Over the last 100 years, there have been phases where you had a story to tell, whether it was about the British era or Indian Army Association. But even despite all of that, the brand wasn't really doing much till the end of the 90s. It's a turnaround story is of the last 20 years. And you can call it luck, but I would give credit to the grit, passion, and determination of one single gentleman called Siddharth Lal, who believed in the product, who believed that The only thing that he could do in his life was to ride, and he found a meaning for his life in Royal Enfield, because Royal Enfield is a motorcycle brand. And he took pains to go to an extent where he fought with his, not fought, the company board was about to shut down the brand in the late 90s, in 99. His father asked him that, what do we do about the brand? And he said, give me 1 year, let me give it a shot and see if I can turn it around. And he was 26-year-old then. At 26-year, I don't know how many of us were doing what. But he took a chance and he moved to Chennai from Delhi, and he formed a team of really like-minded young people who they had this conference room where everybody's smoking. It's like a scene from Mad Men advertising series, and everybody's talking about how do you get the company back in profit. And the headquarters had told them that they're only going to write a check of 1 crore each for every month for the next 12 months. So the 13th month, they had no money coming in. So they only had 12 months to revive the company. And I mean, I could not imagine anybody else apart from Siddharth taking on that challenge at that age. So you, like your question, whether it was about luck, you can call it luck because it happened to be the case that Siddharth was there at the right time, at the right place. I don't know if it would have been for anybody else, that person would have pulled that off. I'm not sure about that. But I would credit, the determination of Siddharth, passion of people that he brought along, all these young people who managed to revive the brand and brought it to the extent that it is right now.
Even if you're not a fan of a bike, the story of Royal Enfield will appeal to you if you are into a story that really evokes some kind of emotion. And that's what I feel Royal Enfield does. And it's a little similar to the story of Apple, where it's more than a product. It's not just about a bike.
Yeah, it's an idea
associated with it. And in that way, we were also discussing how some people think Siddharth Lal is similar to Steve Jobs, the founder of Apple. What do you think?
I think they're both, very different from each other, Steve Jobs and Siddharth Lal. It's a great question, and frankly, it could kind of trigger a debate in the years to come, because knowing Siddharth, from such close quarters and having spoken to so many people who have worked with Siddharth, the feedback that I get is that nobody has the kind of vision that Siddharth has for Royal Enfield or for his company Eicher Motors. In the book, I have talked about a letter that he wrote in 2005, right, about how the brand would look like in 2020. And you read that letter, and then you read the rest of the book, and you will be like, what he wrote in 2005, everything happened as per the script, So that talks a lot about the kind of person that Siddharth is, the kind of understanding that he has about the brand, how much he loves it personally. Also, I've noticed that he's not a very typical businessman who moves around in those expensive suits and expensive cars and very savvy. He's like a boy next door. You could see him in jeans and chappal roaming around on the streets. He would grow beard. His hair would be everywhere when you will meet him. That tells you that he's a hippie at heart first, and then the business part comes, which is a part of his job, part of his life. But so in comparison with Steve, I don't think that will be a very valid comparison. But if you talk about a few visionary Indian business leaders 10 years from now, I'm sure he will be one of them.
And you had also mentioned, if I remember correctly, that this is one of the only bikes or only brands, I'm not quite sure, please correct me if I'm wrong, that has been in continuous production since the early 1900s.
Yeah. So what I was trying to explain you was that the first bike, Royal Enfield bike, came into production in 1901. And when you look at the history of companies, the iconic brands that you have, either they're motorcycling brands like Ducati or a car brand like Mini Cooper. So every brand has faced some kind of disturbance at some point in time in their lifespan. Whether because of some financial shutdown they have been financial problem they have been shut down, or they've been bought by some other company, and the production to an extent has always gotten affected because of some reason or the other. But for Royal Enfield, that has never been the case, even while the brand has gone through so much of ups and downs, right? The British company shutting down in the late 60s, the Indian company facing financial trouble, and the brand was on the verge of closure in the late 80s. Then again in the late 90s, it was about to be closed before Siddharth came on board. So what I'm trying to say is that all this while, despite such situations, they've always made the bike. They've always made the bike in India. Even while they were facing financial trouble in the 80s, they were sending bikes abroad to the UK. So there is no other precedent of any such motorcycling brand in the world, which has been in continuous production over the last 100 years, despite going through so much.
And one of the other debates is which is better, Royal Enfield, Triumph, or Harley Davidson? If I had money, which do I buy? What do you say? Is it fair to compare these three? What is doing the best? Which is performing the best? Thoughts?
See, all three of them are iconic, right? I mean, Triumph represents the.
Iconic.
I mean, I think Royal Enfield, because of the story that it has created in the last few years, definitely scores over those two brands in India, and I'm sure that story will gain more ground as the company goes overseas, as it tells its story to the people in the UK or in the US or elsewhere in the world. It will definitely take time. It won't happen overnight, but its iconic status is only going to rise. It won't be fair to compare Royal Enfield with a Triumph or a Harley, purely because of the segments that they operate in, at the price tag that they carry. But what is more interesting, and this has been said by Siddharth time and again, and I kind of agree with him. He said that the world is moving towards middleweight category motorcycles. But middleweight is basically anywhere between 350cc to 750cc, which is not very bulky, which is easy to ride. You don't have to be a 6 foot tall lanky person to ride those kind of bikes. Even girls and women can ride those kind of bikes. So, and I pretty much agree to that, because if you look at some of the machines that Harley Davidsons and Triumphs of the world make, they are really, really huge, like 2000cc motorcycles. They are monster machines. I don't see a future of those kind of machines, and this is what Siddharth also believes in. On our day-to-day ride, in day-to-day commute, I won't take a 2000cc bike to work every day, but I can take a Royal Enfield Bullet to work every day. So that's the difference. And as more and more people get conscious about traffic, about congestion, about pollution, etc., fuel efficiency, I think the demand for a middleweight category segment is only going to rise. And I think Royal Enfield is perfectly positioned to take advantage of that shift. And that is already happening all around the world right now.
So price-wise, is it even fair to compare the Harley with the Royal Enfield?
No, it's not, because I think the most expensive, Royal Enfield in India would come at half the price of the least expensive Harley Davidson. So it's not an apple-to-apple comparison. A lot of people do compare. They say that Royal Enfield is an answer to Harley Davidson. I kind of do not agree because of, as I said, both product versus product. It's not a right alignment, as well as on price front. Of course, from the brand perspective and the iconic status that they have, you might just say that they fall in the same category.
And the bike culture here in India, of course, it's growing, and it seems to be growing much faster than it has before. And as you mentioned, there are more and more women who love riding a bike and will do it as a hobby, as an adventure. They're taking to their passion. Have you met any? Tell us about that. Do they actually like Royal Enfields? How do the women feel about the Royal Enfield?
Yeah, so I kind of met a lot of women. I spoke to a lot of them, and in fact, the company has also been very conscious in opening the brand to women because that's a new segment that not many people have addressed. But one story that I want to tell you, which was very inspiring to me, I spoke with this girl from Bangalore. She has speech and hearing impairment. She reads our lips to speak to us, and it's very challenging for her. And she took a road trip from Bangalore to Ladakh. Uh, and I don't know if you've been to Ladakh. I have ridden through the valleys. It's very treacherous and it's very unpredictable. And and she made it. And she said that at one point in time she got stuck in a tunnel, and she could hardly see anything, uh, and she had hearing issues. But what she did was, so she followed the trucks. The trucks these days have these badges which sparkle with the yellow badges. So she followed that truck to get out of that tunnel. Now, not everybody does that, right? And to expect out of her name is Archana Timaraju. She's a teacher, fine arts teacher in Bangalore. So that story is very inspirational. If she could do it, anybody can do it. And now she's kind of taken up a cause because she faced a lot of issues in getting a driving license. And now she plans to ride. COVID has, of course, delayed her plans, but she plans to ride to Europe. But I met many such girls. In the book, there have been case studies of people who. There's one girl who, took her father's bike when she was 18, and then she started riding all over the country. So yeah, the brand has kind of appeal to that segment, but I would expect that the company to do more towards that, to actually build bikes which are suited for women, not just men. By that I mean that you can perhaps work on the sitting stance of the bike. It could be lower for more women to ride it. It could be more accessible, light, and I'm sure Royal Enfield is working towards that. If you see the new bike that has come out, Meteor, I believe lots of work has been done on the bike, keeping women buyers in mind. So as we go forward, we will see more and more women taking up motorcycling in the country.
And one executive at Royal Enfield that the book talks about at, at relative length is Mr. Rudy. There was some criticism about how he led the company. Some people felt it was different to what his past experience in handling FMCG called for. What are your thoughts on Mr. Rudy's contribution to the Royal Enfield brand? Was he there at a time when the brand was just doing, or the business was just doing really well? So it looked like he was contributing to the company. What was it?
So, see, Rudy's entry into the company happened at a very interesting time when the company was really spreading its wings to go global, right? In 2015. This is around the time when Siddharth also moved to London, giving charge to Rudy in India. And the objective of the mandate that was given to Rudy was to really make Royal Enfield a consumer company. Okay, so far Royal Enfield was purely a lifestyle brand. People, would take the bike to the Himalayas, to elsewhere for a fun trip. Not many people were riding Royal Enfield motorcycles to work or for your daily use. So the mandate that was given to Rudy was to expand the horizons of Royal Enfield, and make it more consumer oriented. And I think he was very much successful when it comes to that. If you just look at the numbers, they've grown phenomenally under his regime. But what happened, and that is very natural in any company with the change of leadership that happens, is you have a set of people who have been with the brand and who have worked in a certain manner over a period of time. They don't take change so easily, and we've seen that in a lot of companies. Change that comes in, you typically resist, and I think that's what happened. But Rudy handled it well, and I think there was enough freedom given to Rudy from Siddharth. There were criticism, of course, because the people who were there from before were hardcore motorcycling guys who did not understand how the bike can be sold more, can be made like a consumer brand, while Rudy had come from that school of hardcore consumerism, like he'd come from Unilever, which is one of the pioneer of consumer business in the world. So there was, of course, some kind of clash, if that's the word that I may use. But I think Rudy was pretty successful in putting the brand on track of becoming a really premium consumer brand. If you look at it at the end of his career, Royal Enfield always faced issues of surveys, of defects, of oil leaks, oil spills that you talked about. And to an extent, he managed to address all of that. Perhaps it would take some more time before the Royal Enfield bikes could be purely defect free or quality issues. They will be top notch. But a lot of credit goes to Rudy for that. There have been interpersonal, issues between Rudy and other executives, which I think is normal in any company that would like to take up such a big challenge of transformation its brand from transforming its brand from a lifestyle brand to a consumer brand.
All right, Amrit. So as we wrap up, just tell our viewers and our potential readers why they should consider Indian Icon, why it deserves space in their bookshelf, and also the launch date and where they can find it.
So the book is coming out on 30th November. It will be available on Flipkart, on Amazon, and your nearest bookstore. The reason you should buy it is because it is one of the finest examples of Indian entrepreneurship, finest examples of the grit that we Indians have, the passion that we Indians have to turn around things and make a difference. I think Royal Enfield and Siddharth, both of them, are finest example of that. You must read this book because the next 20 years or maybe more will be a time that would belong to India, and Royal Enfield will be standing right in front holding Indian flag for that. So thank you very much. I really look forward to your feedback, your reviews. So thank you very much.
All right, Amrit. Also, thank you very much to you for sharing your thoughts on the book and about your writing process and how strongly you feel about the brand. Thank you once again for your time. And to our viewers as well, thank you so much for watching this edition of Softcover with ThePrint. And this is Regina Mihindukulasuriya once again for ThePrint. Amrit, thank you and congratulations
Regina.
on your book.
Thank you very much. I thank Print as well. Thank you very much.